All right, before I get started, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just reporting you the news. Their story's out, Pereira out, Marco Silva in. Welcome to your Forest News. Hi guys, hope you're doing well and welcome to your Forest News. Coming up, I'll talk you through the reports about Pereira leaving and Marco Silva coming in. I didn't write it before. I know what you lot are going to be like in the comments. But make sure you've liked, make sure you've subscribed, and if you want to grab me a coffee, feel free to do so. Okay. So, where do we start with this one? Now, I will say to you that I don't trust the source of this story. As always, I'm just telling you what's happening in the wonderful world of Forest, what's being discussed and everything else. But there is rumours. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll show you the article that you lot are going to accuse me of writing. Right, it says here, Forest are considering a shock Pereira sacking as Marinakis eyes stunning reunion with the Premier League boss Marco Silva. It goes on to say, Forest retain a strong interest in Fulham boss Marco Silva and could make a shock managerial change this summer if the Portuguese coach signals a willingness to move to the City ground. Team Talk understands. Yes, I know, great source. Silva has admirers across Europe following another impressive spell with Fulham, but Forest owner Marinakis remains one of his biggest supporters after the hugely successful time together at Olympiakos. As Team Talk has previously reported, the relationship between Silva and Marinakis has remained extremely strong since their period in Greece, where Silva guided Olympiakos, who are also owned by Marinakis, to the 2016 Super League title. That campaign included a remarkable European record run of 17 consecutive domestic victories at the start of the season and firmly cemented Silva's reputation as one of the most promising young coaches in Europe at the time. Interestingly, when Silva took over at Olympiakos, he replaced fellow Portuguese coach Vitor Pereira, and Team Talk understands a similar sequence could now unfold again at Forest. The former Wolves chief took over from Sean Dyche, blah blah blah. But sources have now confirmed to Team Talk that Marinakis is considering another managerial reshuffle this summer, despite Forest already going through 4 managers during the current campaign. And then it says Forest will face competition for the target. The Forest owner is understood to believe Silva could provide the stability, tactical structure and Premier League credibility needed to elevate the club to the next level. Team Talk can reveal Marinakis would be prepared to make a decisive move if Silva indicates he is open to taking over at the City ground. However, Forest are far from alone in the pursuit of the former Everton and Hull boss. Chelsea continue to assess Silva as part of their ongoing managerial search following the decision to move on from Rossinia. And then it finishes off by saying, Chelsea appreciate Marco Silva's Premier League experience, attacking style of football and proven ability to improve players from within a structured system. Also, Benfica are interested because apparently Mourinho is going to go to Real Madrid. And then it goes on to say all kinds of stuff. And it finishes with, however, multiple major clubs circling, Marinakis prepared to act aggressively once again. Silva's future is shaping up to become one of the most fascinating managerial stories of the summer. And breathe. My God, that's a long article. Okay, so first things first, Team Talk, not a great source at all, okay? Now, why am I bringing it to you? Is it because I'm trying to wish it into existence? No. But this is something that I kind of felt could happen, okay? Forest approached Marco Silva after they got rid of Nuno. There was also some rumours that when what's his face Ange went and then they were looking at Dyche, there was also talks they were looking at Silva. Now Silva had about a £14 million release clause in his contract then, and the general feeling, not just with Forest but with the football world, was that if you wanted Marco Silva, you may as well save yourself £15 million and go get him in the summer when he's free. Now Fulham are still trying to convince Marco Silva to stay. I don't think he's gonna. I kind of think he's reached his time at Fulham and he's looking at his options. So that's the things from the Marco Silva side. From the Pereira side, I would say this would be really harsh to sack Pereira. I think Pereira's done a really, really good job at Forest. I mean, look at our results in the Premier League. Okay, yeah, I'm still annoyed about the Europa League, but when you go back and assess it, you're like, okay, we got to the semi-finals. Not bad at all. So, he's done a good job. And I didn't know that bit, that Silva was going to replace him at Olympiakos. He's going to be like, freaking hell, man. Is this, you know, history repeating itself? Is he in that film? What's that film called where, I forgot it, where time keeps repeating it with Bill Murray? Someone tell me in the comments. So, I think it would be harsh. Am I against it? I'd be lying. Look, I'll be honest with you guys. I'd be lying if I said I would be against it. Okay? I just think Marco Silva at Forest is a match made in heaven. I think it works. I think it fits. I think his style is exactly what we need. I think he can improve some of the players we've already got. And I think he would do really well with an owner like Marinakis, who is going to pump money into the club. And with Forest not having European football next season, the likelihood is we need to attract kind of tier 2 players, if that makes sense, or that's what we can attract. And therefore, Marco Silva, or the coach, whoever's in charge, needs to be able to work with those players. Do I lean more for it than against Pereira? And again, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I am not sitting here saying Pereira out. You heard me when Dyche came in. I was Dyche out before he came in. I'm not one to hide behind or not say what I'm feeling. I have no problems with Pereira staying on. But I think Marco Silva is an upgrade to Pereira. Therefore, with that in mind, if this deal were to happen, then yes, I'd be for it. But if you were going to sack Pereira and go get me Dyche version 2, then of course I'm not up for it. Now, a lot of you say, oh, you bloody hypocrite. You always say, make your decision on the manager you've currently got. Don't worry about what's coming in. I hear that. I agree with that, okay? But this is different circumstances. This is what you would call a market opportunity. With the likes of Marco Silva being on the market, with the likes of Iraola, Glasner, that's already 3 managers from the Premier League who are readily available. And I don't think there's enough clubs to fill those. I think Manu will probably stick with Carrick. Chelsea, I mean, who wants to go to Chelsea, right? I honestly think going to Wolves is a more attractive job right now than going and working under blue coat at Chelsea. So I can't see Chelsea getting the pick of the litter. Maybe they do go for Marco Silva. I don't know. But Marco Silva going to Chelsea would not appease their fan base. I can tell you that much. Especially going from Fulham as well. How would that work? The rivalry, West London and all that. So I think Marinakis is actually doing the right thing. Now, what might happen is Marinakis assesses the options and he goes, you know what? Pereira's done this job. He's done a fantastic job. I think the right call is just to hold on, give him a preseason, build him a squad, etc., etc. Or he may lean towards upgrading, if you like. I'm not pushing for this. I'm not pushing against it. But you guys know I think Marco Silva's perfect for Forest. And as I've mentioned before, we saw Bournemouth do this with Gary O'Neill. They brought in Iraola. And look where they are currently. There's obviously, you can come up with loads of inverse examples that prove the polar opposite, right? You could say, I don't know, Moyes at West Ham, they got rid of him. And who did they get? Was it Pellegrini, I think, if I remember rightly? And now look where they currently are sitting in the table. So each scenario is different, right? You can't say just because Bournemouth did this, or just because West Ham did this, or Spurs did this, or Arsenal did this, or whatever, it's going to work. It has to be assessed properly. Would I do it? I'll be honest with you. For Silva, yeah. Yeah, I'd do it. I think he works. I think he works. And if you guys want to interpret that as me saying Pereira out, which I'm not, then knock yourselves out. Knock yourselves out. But let me know in the comments. Would you do this or not? And if you would, is it harsh on Pereira? And if you wouldn't, do you think Pereira, who's never been a project manager, he's always been in a club for about 18 months or so on average, do you see Forest building a long relationship? Or does that not really matter? Because we get 3 managers every 5 minutes at Forest, don't we? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you've liked, make sure you've subscribed. I'll see you on the next video. Come on, you Reds.